A little shorthanded, but why don't we go ahead and get started? Um, Pretty short agenda, it looks like. Start off with some updates on infrastructure. First one, I just wanted to note that it's done and now working. So there was a dated out of date plugin on Jenkins that was causing all the jobs to fail. Is there anything else to say about that, Eric?
No, not really.
Thank you. The two ongoing infrastructure items, one of the GitHub actions, the second are new VM instances for Jenkins. Eric, any updates?
Right now I have been um pretty much fully involved in an issue on Volta. And unfortunately, we're kind of seeing the issue of having two engineers down to just me. I took over for Joey and Daff. So I'm going to try to pull in some folks from my team and get some extra help here. I think especially for the GitHub actions, we have our own library of reusable actions that most of my team has contributed to. So I think that that's something that anyone else could pick up and help out with. The AMI builds also pretty true. We're just going to do those via Packer. Um, but yeah, right now I've kind of just been swamped on something else, and
Okay, yeah,
it's
appreciate pulling in some help if we could get some.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
just a
normally
note.
it's back and forth, a little bit here, a little bit there, but since they started their release a few weeks ago, we've just been finding a ton of problems and things done in odd ways that nobody on the team is familiar with. So it's just been digging and trying to find things over and over. Yeah, so my ether work has stalled out, and that's not good. That's not fair to your project. So gonna get an extra pair of eyes on everything.
All right, thank you. Thanks. I
Hmm.
just noted that in terms of building VM instances for Jenkins, probably starting with the new one, which is 2404, for which we have no existing thing to match, is probably the priority.
Okay.
It is the case that Gabriel in particular has been running on 2404 and has debugged it pretty well. I'm not sure what holes you still see there, Gabriel, but being able to start testing that consistently would be a good thing to do.
Uh, Basically, what the PRs I have opened overall, I think address kind of the limitations I have faced so far with Ubuntu 24. Um, but it would be good. I mean, for example, in my case, I have been primarily making these changes on the uh, blueprints that I typically use, right? But for example, things like I haven't tested with UERAN SIM or SRS, the SD-RAN. So there are a few things that I haven't tested. I have tested primarily GNOT vSIM, OAI, and SRS-RAN, and the AMP, which are basically what I typically am using. So I expect to test with the SD-RAN soon, but it's not like a full testing across all the different blueprints. And that would be something good if you guys have some time to validate that part whether everything is working with the other blueprints as well.
Thanks. I just made note under on rep that you have been incrementally doing that, but you don't know that everything's covered. So yeah, thank you. Um, so there's a fourth item which I lifted out of the action items from last week. Let me just go down to those for a second. I have updated, so the top level issue here is we've gotten some security complaints about SD core, most of which, if not all of them, have been targeted at the 4G version, which we are no longer actively maintaining. Um, I have reflected that on the wiki. I have not gone to any of the other sites yet. I'm not sure I'll have to go take a look, but the wiki at least now notes that there's no active development on the 4G version. We haven't technically archived it, which is maybe okay, because there was an update at one point. AJ did make an update when he got a PR. So I don't know that we want to slam the door 100% shut, but just making the expectation that it's not active development is at least a start.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, Larry. Just gonna give you an update. So any PR that have been open for the 4G related stuff, Agile primarily has been testing it. I mean, reviewing them, and everything is merged so far. But anyway, there hasn't been that much activity from the 4G side, right? So probably I believe in the last 6 months, maybe we have had like 2, 3 PRs, and that's it from somebody, but somebody else contributing to those. But it's not like that we have been actually doing active development on that side. So you can leave them as not, as they are right now, so not archive. But yeah, what you're saying is it would be good to connect, indicate that there's no active development on those. And something else along those lines is that basically, I think it was for the Nucleus repository that we did a PR last week. But all the stuff related to 4G relies Jenkins job that doesn't exist. They relies on the ONF CLA that, again, it's not used anymore, right? So what I had to do to be able to merge the PR for these nucleus, I had to kind of remove everything. And the only check or validation that is in the repositories is the DCO check basically. So from that perspective, I just wanted to bring it up also to the TST. If in the future we have PRs for other 4G components, we may need to also disable all those Jenkins jobs that don't exist, or the ONF CLA that again doesn't exist, for example.
So Gabriel, your audio is not great, but I think you're pointing to the agenda item that you have under SD Core now.
Yes, that's correct.
So just to understand it, nothing runs on Jenkins right now, other than the integration test we'll get to in a second.
Correct.
So I'm not exactly sure what the high level point here. So unrolling what you said, AJ and others have accepted PRs in the last several months, so it's not archived, but it's just not active development. That part I think we agree on. But then you were going on to making some other points that I don't know, maybe someone else was able to hear it better than I was.
Sorry, I'm in a kind of noisy place. I can give you an update offline probably in an hour or so. Yeah, so sorry.
Okay, stop me if I'm completely steamrolling over this one. It sounds like you're coming back to it. I was starting on the action items. So the wiki does reflect that it's not that it's archived, but it's not actively under development. I did invite the researcher. I've not heard back from him to come to a future TST call. So maybe that will. Yeah, now I see your note, Gabriel, thanks. So that's still pending. And enable private security reports, which was one of the requests that we got. That has been done for some repos, need to make sure all active repos do that. So now I'm looking at last week's notes. So I put it under infrastructure because it's sort of a general issue. Does anyone have experience doing that? I know it was Gabriel that spoke up and said that it had been done for the 5G repos, but. Eric, are you familiar with this?
Not with this specific way of doing it.
So there was a link here,
Yeah.
which I don't know if you followed it. So you're not familiar with that in particular?
No, I mean, obviously I could set it up based on the link, but yeah, I couldn't give you a lot of information about how it's been implemented on other projects or anything like that.
All right, so why don't you look into that and I'll file a ticket so we can track it, but let's
Sure.
work towards that. And I don't know that this is the right way to do it either. Um,
Well, yeah, and if it's done in other places, it should be, you know, however it's working there, we should see the same
yeah,
results.
so maybe the note here is mimic what the 5G repos do. So anything else on infrastructure? Okay. And then onto the core, this is the point Gabriel was getting to. So I think with respect to what we were just talking about, if we're not doing active development on the 4GC, then I don't know that we activate the security reports. Everything else that happens that would be part of, handling pull requests and so on, maybe now out of date. And like I said, as far as I know, there's nothing running on Jenkins anymore related to any of this. AJ, anybody else want to raise any other core issues?
Um, About 4G, I think we should like looking at the. I mean, we don't have any much. I mean, we are not contributing on the 4G. We did receive few contributions in the past, so maybe it has time has come to probably archive it so that we don't need to do this miscellaneous task, right? Mm, maybe is there any way like we send some email or something to members and get some data if somebody's intending to contribute further, and then we will ask them to maintain it then, right? Or at least bring it up to the speed, right? And if we do not hear anything, then I would recommend then we should probably go and archive it, right? I'm only worried about some of the I don't know what happens. I believe like if we even if we do archive, if there are forks and all, that continues, if I'm not wrong. And there's
Right.
likely chance that some of the community members have taken it to the maybe to some level of commercialization, right? So hopefully there's no impact on them. Uh,
Yeah,
right, like
but it could be the case that, I mean, the places that GS Labs has been doing productization around the 4G version. There's others as well. It would not be that hard to set up a 4G team on GitHub and give them complete control over those repos, moderator control.
yeah, sounds okay. I mean, if they are maintaining it, and then I would like it would be great if they contribute as well,
Exactly,
right? And
right.
because some of the containers are using like literally, I think Ubuntu like 18 dot something or maybe 16 dot something, which is way too old, right? So even the base container images are not updated. And then since they have been using it and testing it, right, it makes a lot more sense to update it and test it once, right? So
What is action item? I don't want to link there. All right. Oh, I put brackets around it. All right, so I'll take the action item to start a conversation and see what comes of it. We either
think-
archive or we get some new people to take ownership of moderating.
Yeah. Otherwise, I saw many peers coming from Canonical, but I see a pattern of like they are in the draft, but there is a lot of comments. I was not sure whether we should even review them or what should we do. Alright, so if somebody from Canonical can let us know what is the protocol followed. Typically, draft is something like at least I mean not ready for review. That's how I consider it. So
Yeah, that's what we're considering it for draft. So there's a lot of draft pull requests from us right now.
yeah.
Okay,
So-
I'll check with the team to make sure that either those are moved to ready or closed.
Yeah, if we can move it to ready, then we can take a look. But I mean, there looks like PRs are good. I mean, of course, they're good contribution. There's a lot of comments from your team itself. Like, and in some cases, I think Gabriel has also commented. Right. Only thing is, I'm not sure if it is draft. Then should I? Looks like may not be final code, and still under development. Right. So. Yeah, I mean, if it needs review, like moving it to like a review state would be helpful. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
look
you.
into that.
Yeah. I think Gabriel has been typing some update on the release upgrade. Gabriel, you can attempt to speak probably.
Can you hear me?
Well, a little bit, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so one thing just to clarify regarding to what Aja indicated from the canonical contributions. I think this is one specific case, Aja, that I think Dario had a draft open for the web console. But I think Dario wanted to double check whether all the actions passed. But since it was Dario's first contribution in the web console, so the web console, the GitHub actions are not triggered, are not automatically triggered for first time contributors. So he was gonna just asking if any of the maintainers can actually approve to run the Git. So now, what was the motivation behind that? Probably was just to make sure that everything was running fine. I mean, passing all the different checks. I just wanted to kind of highlight that part. Now, regarding the the 3GPP release upgrade, so I started testing last week the SMF image that had basically it's using the release 18 APIs and models. It seems to be running fine, but at the moment I'm having an issue when the SMF tries to communicate to the NRF. Basically, since at the moment, at least in Nora, we are using this unknown. So that's why I've been trying to kind of work on this and try to address, but overall, basically, there is a kind of like a good progress on that side.
Okay, thank you. I see you also reviewed and merged 30 PRs. Thanks. Any other core? Anything else on the core?
Not from my side.
Thanks. So let me see. No one on the line. No, so no report from SD-RAN. I didn't
Larry?
check. Yeah.
I have a couple updates I wanted to share regarding the SD-RAN 1.5 release.
Mhm.
I received an email from Wu Zhang on Friday saying that everything was ready and the release notes were final. However, I looked on the wiki today and it does not appear to be final. So I asked him to double check that. Also, we had planned to do a webinar around this release, and I just received an email yesterday from Michelle indicating that we cannot have an all-male lineup for webinars. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to do a webinar. I'm going to check back with her. From what I understand from Wuzhong, there are no females who are part of the SD-RAN team, so I'm not sure what we can do in that case. So working on that.
Interesting. I didn't know the LF had a policy.
I didn't either. So stay tuned. I'll update you as I learn more.
All right, so back to the release notes.
They still say draft on the wiki, so I didn't want to post
Was
the
he
blog,
was
which
he
is
referring
fine.
to the wiki or was he referring to the docs? Do you know?
Let's see what he specifically said. Release notice finalized. I will post it to the SD-RAN doc as well. From
Okay,
what
so
I see on the wiki, it still says draft, but maybe I'm looking in the wrong place.
well, that I was kind of thinking there was probably duplicated between the docs and the wiki. But it sounds like the wiki is the authoritative one and he needs to copy it to docs. So if the wiki doesn't say final,
Right.
okay, let's see if we can get that.
It's pretty minor. Yeah.
All right, but he thinks the work is
The
done. Good.
work's done. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, since it's semi-related here, the what did we call it? The review, the RIC evaluation. Is there anything to say about that? That report, I know there's been an exchange of email, Denise, maybe you could just. I'll just say to be.
Regarding the report, so one of the questions there's I believe by Wednesday, it's expected to be finalized. And after that, we'll decide. We still need to decide on what the announcement strategy is, if we want to roll it out as a series of blogs, because it's a fairly lengthy report overall. So waiting some feedback on that.
Yeah, right, thank you. And so LF is involved in this because they co-commissioned it
Right,
as opposed to just Ether.
right.
Okay. On-ramp, multi-UPF integration test now run thanks to Blonde Gabriel. There was as Gabriel just noted here, there was an out-of-date Helm chart being used. And for the record, because it's been the only instance in time until somebody runs another test, take a look at the dashboard. All tests have passed. So as of this moment, everything is known to work. I'm sure that will not be true for very long, but it is true for the moment. I'm just going to make note here. Rock has been problematic. Sometimes it installs correctly and sometimes it doesn't. And it's probably a timing error of some kind. Which
through on-ramp, Larry?
through being installed by on-ramp, right?
Yeah.
So it's a two-stage process. You install the Helm charts and of course it's Atomics and then ONOS, and then the Rock umbrella, and then you load the models in. The failure typically shows up when you load the models, but it's seems to be that somehow in the instantiation of all the containers, something didn't set up right.
Okay.
And,
can,
of the tests that I just was showing in this dashboard, there are several of them that bring up AMP and run the core off of what's in AMP. So it definitely works. It's just that it doesn't work all the time. And it's the real thorn is when it doesn't work, you have to reinstall Kubernetes because Atomics is installed inside of the Kubernetes namespace.
yeah, okay.
And do you happen to
And
remember why that is?
yeah, right. I'm sure it's something very complicated to do with Kubernetes, with the Atomics controller or something like this. I can say it to Jordan and see if he has any recollection. Like we didn't. What this job is running on Jenkins somewhere, is it? The output you've shown here.
Yeah, any one of the jobs here that shows AMP, well, that's sort of the base job. It brings up AMP with the core managed by AMP as opposed to managing it standalone. And yeah, if I go into this particular one, for example, we've got never mind this. We had a glitch this was the problem that I was telling you about. So it's been working the last little bit, but historically this has been a problem. And I don't know that. Install Aether. Yeah, here would be one going back. Well, that's another. No, that's maybe this problem too. So we bring up, this is a pretty big stage. Right here. Yeah, the rock load fails. But going back, the load happens after, all of the instantiation of rock, provision rock. So
Right, okay. Yeah. Okay. Can you send a link to this?
Sure. Let me well, I don't want quite that. Let me go back to here. I'm sending you the UPF because when we bring up two UPFs, we bring them up under the control of AMP. Yeah, I'll do this offline because there's some other. I'll find some other places where it's failed that might be better to look at.
Yeah. That sounds good. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you. Yeah, and so I see Gabriel's updated the progress he's making on 2404, so that's good.
To answer Gabriel's question, Atomics is. I'll ask Jordan if it's still maintained. I mean, it's his project, and I suspect, like you do, that there's it's something with the Atomics controller is at fault here, that maybe it hasn't finalized or fully loaded itself up by the time it hits the second stage. So
I mean, if you stick some timing delays in there, it's been a while. I forget exactly how long the delay currently is, but there is some delay there, I think.
Right.
Maybe I'll play with that and see if it helps.
Yeah. Something might just take something very small.
Yep. All right. ARA.
Yeah, so this thing for the blueprint on the SD run side. Yeah, I think the draft is ready, but I need to talk to my professor about this part. Yeah, Hongwei is kind of busy with proposals these days.
Yep.
Yeah, for the deployment of like making SD run available on our error portal. So I'm still talking to our team members to see whether we can make our support earlier. Yeah, right now, I think from my teammates, like his plan is make the support for the bare metal on April. and I'm trying to find a way to like do it. Ask him to do this earlier, so then I can make SD run available sooner. And for the SD core side, Joshua said there is no new progress yet. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, and is there anything else? Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Take care. See you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.